Just so you know, my audience isn't like a church setting. It's for you guys. So, okay. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Today we're going to be speaking about Luke 7:36 through 50. So if you have that in front of you, that'd be great, and follow along. Okay. Now one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him. So he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. And when a woman who had lived a sinful life in that town learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume, and she stood behind him at his feet, weeping. She began to wet his feet with her tears, and then she wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and poured perfume on them. When the Pharisee who had invited him saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know who is touching him and what kind of woman she is, that she is a sinner." Jesus answered him, "Simon, I have something to tell you." "Tell me, teacher," he said. 2 men owed money to a certain moneylender. One owed him 500 denarii, the other 50. Neither of them had the money to pay him back, so he canceled the debts of both. Now which of them will love him more? Simon replied, "I suppose the one who had the bigger debt canceled." "You have judged correctly," Jesus said. And then he turned towards the woman and said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house. You did not give me any water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not give me a kiss, but this woman, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not put oil on my head, but she had poured perfume on my feet. Therefore I tell you, her many sins have been forgiven, for she has loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little." And then Jesus said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." The other guests began to say amongst themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" And Jesus said to the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." 6 years ago, I just looked this up the other day. It was August 1st, 2003. I was a high schooler. I had a t-shirt on. I was walking down my street, and I decided to attend church for the first time in my young adult life. And I went up to the door, and nervous, I heard hymns playing. I didn't know what time the church started, so I was late. And so I looked inside the open door, decided not the place for me. So I kind of quickly, before anybody saw me, any of the deacons saw me, I would retreat to the sidewalk once again, and I started on my way back. Now, I was a typical high schooler. I had a lot of things going for me. I had good grades, great parties, a lot of things today that I'd look down on, a lot of things that Christ has blessed me with saving me from. But nonetheless, I felt like an outsider going in, unwelcome, whether by my own assumptions or whether that was the actual way it is. But just so you have that in mind, if you've ever felt that way, if you've ever felt like you're an outsider going into a church, that's the kind of scene that we're encountering in Luke. What's been happening in Luke going up to chapter 7 and what's developing in chapter 7 is something where reputations are being built up. We're seeing Christ's reputation being founded. If you look back to the story early on in chapter 7 of the centurion, where the centurion in 7:6 says, "Lord, please do not enter my house, for I am unworthy to have you under my roof." Wow. When was the last time you said, "Please don't come into my house"? I am unworthy to have you in my household. That's a tremendous statement. We see him being built up as one of extreme ritual purity, for him to be invited into the Pharisee's house, to be considered clean enough to sit at the same table and to partake of the same meal as these law-observing Pharisees. Pharisees in that day were very strict about their law observance. They saw themselves as a remnant of the holy nation that God once saw as all of Israel, but them as the particular law enforcers. So going up to this, we see this woman coming into this meal. Now, if it's a little different than our modern day dinner tables, it's set up as a symposia, which would have been a U-shaped table low to the ground, and they would have been reclining with their feet outward. So in case you're wondering how she got at his feet, that's a little background. So we see this woman in this very open building. Guests would have come in and out. And we see this woman coming in just kind of like I had. Maybe being a little bit hesitant. Why wouldn't she have been? She was a sinner in this city. People knew about her. People knew about me when I was approaching my church.